What up, y'all? It's Robert, and welcome back to a new video. In today's video, I'll be showing you guys my picks for the best drift cars in the game, and basically which ones I actually believe are the best ones, and which ones are kind of mediocre, and which ones you should spend your money on, which ones you shouldn't. But for the first honorable mention is gonna be the Futo. I know it's not a drift car, but if I'm being honest, the thing it should have been added. The Futo GTX is going to be later on in the video, but in my opinion, I feel like this one's a little better. But let's get into the video. Um, the first car is the Anus. I'm sorry, but that name is so goofy to me. But I mean, it's a pretty decent car. It's pretty solid at drifting. Now this is gonna be the only car that actually has like the upgrades to it, because if I'm being honest, I kind of got used to the other ones not having it. And if I'm being honest, if you are planning on using these cars as like daily driven around vehicles, I would probably just keep it with the stock tune. You can't upgrade the motors once you put the drift tune on it, and a lot of people think that the engines don't actually affect it, but it actually does. They do. They actually still are pretty fast if you don't mess with the engine. Your car's gonna be a little bit slower, and it's also gonna spin more, which is weird. But I mean, if you're drag racing, I mean, yeah, I guess. But I mean, you're using it as a drift car, so I would just probably leave it stock anyway. But I mean, it's a pretty decent drift car. It's kind of a little heavy. I think it's based more on the map that I chose. Now this next one is the G35 car that they added. I actually like this one a lot. This one actually handles pretty decently, and it's actually for a beginner. I would use this one preferably. This car is built more for this update, since I mean it's a brand new vehicle that is added for this. All the other cars that you're gonna see are vehicles that were in the past updates and aren't really built for this type of stuff. They're just added with the tune because they look like drift cars. But if I'm being honest, I actually like the way this one handles. Now, I was getting used to driving them all, but if I'm being honest, I would probably go with this one. If you want something that looks that's new and looks decent, it has a lot of upgrades I've seen. I honestly would use this one preferably over the other vehicles, but that's basically just up to preference. Now, I did start getting a little bit more used to the handling, and I honestly, if you want a decent vehicle, I would go with one that I'm gonna show you later on in the video. But if you want something that's pretty much a new vehicle to the game and you don't want anything that anyone else probably has, I'll probably go with this one, if I'm being honest. Now, the pricing wise, it's a little much for what it is, but I mean, all these cars are pretty expensive, and honestly, you pay for what you get. The lower tier ones actually do handle a little worse. So this basically is, the more you pay, the better the car drifts and handles. And I'm pretty sure they all cost 200,000 for just to get the tune itself. So if I'm being honest, you're probably gonna be spending around like 1.6 to 2 mil on this car alone. But the next one is it's brother car, I guess, the 370Z in the game. And I actually like this one the most compared to the other one. Now this one actually does have a lot more upgrades, I'm pretty sure, than that one. I can't remember. I have this car regularly, I just didn't put the tune on it, but if I'm being honest, I actually like the handling on this one a little bit more. So I'd rank this one higher above that car. And I'm pretty sure it's also a little bit cheaper. Now, looks wise, I would probably go with the other one because the rear end on this car is kind of ugly. That's the real downside. I mean, you're always going to be looking at it when you're driving. It's basically off a preference between the two. But for drifting, I would probably go with this one. It's a little bit easier to get into, and it's a pretty decent starter car, I guess, for if you know you're not willing to drop a lot of money. I mean, the car still costs a lot. If I'm probably being serious, I'd probably go with the Drift Tampa for like a starter, but I mean, it's pretty. That one's kind of a little sluggish, but if you want something that's gonna like somewhat be decent around the turns, I would probably go with this one. But the car that I actually like the most is gonna be later on in the video. But this one's pretty decent. So if I was to rate this one compared to like the last one, that last one's probably gonna get like a 4 out of 5. No, not a 4 out of 5. I'll do out of 10. I'll probably do 6 for the last one, 6.5 for this one. This one handles a little bit better and it's a little bit easier to slide around. It's a little bit more predictable, but if I'm being honest, I probably wouldn't waste my money on either one of them. If you really want to get into this one honestly was in my opinion, was the best handling car when it came to the drifts. It's a lot more agile in the turns, and it's based off of the RX7. It looks pretty good even without like the spoiler and all that. But even without like the stock tune, like look, I'm actually able to hit it pretty easily. And you could actually, it keeps you going a lot easier than the other two. And if I'm being honest, I actually like this one a lot more than the other ones. This is actually my favorite out of all the ones that they added. This one I would actually give like a 9 if I'm being honest. Now, it does have some drawbacks. It's a little bit sluggish. But I mean, in drifting, it's not about speed anyway. You want a car that's going to be able to, you know, keep you going. And the only thing is that I mean, I did start getting more used to it. And once you start getting more used to the drifts, there is like a slight difference in how the cars feel. But if I'm being honest, they kind of all handle the same after a while. Like at least the first 3 cars that I've shown, once you get used to drifting, they will feel like almost the same. So if I'm being honest, if you want to buy this one, this is probably the best one to go with. You don't really need to be like a pro at drifting either for this car to be actually useful. I actually enjoyed this one the most. But on to the next vehicle, and that's the new Jester that we have in the game. And this one is pretty good too. I would give this one like an 8. Honestly, all the cars that I'm gonna show are pretty okay. There are cars that, like I said, the last one was really good. This one's also a good one too. It handles about the same as the last one, but the last one's a little bit easier to get used to. This one's kind of like you have to somewhat build up towards this one a little bit, but honestly, it's not that bad of a car. I actually enjoyed driving it. It was pretty fun, even on the tracks that I tried it on. It's pretty easy to like hit tandems and all that, and get used to the motion of the car, I guess. And the maps that they added are actually pretty solid. But honestly, I hope they add more vehicles like the Futo, like the regular Futo, or even the Banshee, because those were like cars that were like known for being the drift cars in the game. And with this update, I mean, you know, they only added like one new style car for this section, and the rest are all old vehicles from like past updates. Like three or four of them, I'm pretty sure, from the update where they added in the low grip tires. But that's all I gotta say for this one. It's actually a pretty good car. I give it like an 8, 8.5. If I'm being honest, I'd probably go with the RX7 for the best one. Now this one, I honestly was kind of disappointed by it. The Futo, I'm pretty sure it's called the Futo GTX. And in the original update for this car, they added it, and when you could get low grip tires for it, I honestly didn't handle that well. It really wasn't that solid of a drift car when it first came out. And if I'm being honest, it still kind of rings true even now with this update. The car still doesn't really handle all that well. And if I'm being honest, it's kind of it's definitely one of the lowest ones. So I would definitely stay away from this car at all costs. It's really not that good of a vehicle. And it's honestly, in my opinion, this is probably the biggest waste of money. The regular Futo drifts 10 times better than this one, even without low grips, or even just lowering the car. It drifts 10 times better. But of course, you can't use it in this because it's not a drift. It doesn't have a drift tune on it. But if I'm being honest, I'm not really a big fan of this car. It handles too. It's not. It slides too little, but it also slides too much at the same time. If that makes sense, I don't know how to really explain it. But it slides. No, it takes its time to slide, which in this, when it's like tight turns, really isn't a good thing. And it also, kind of takes it a little bit too narrow at times. It doesn't really it just doesn't feel solid compared to the rest of the cars. They don't. This is the one that honestly was, again, another letdown. I thought they would kind of fix it with this update, and they really haven't. And it's really not worth the money. I mean, if you like the looks of it, because I mean, it does look like the AE86, and I mean, initial D people would love this vehicle. But if I'm being honest, it's really a waste of money. I wouldn't personally buy it. I already have one, but I'm not gonna convert it because it was a waste of time when I first bought it, and again, it's a waste of time now. But that's all I really gotta say for this vehicle. Like I said, I'm gonna rate it like a 6, like honestly like a 5 if I'm being honest. It's really lower on the scale for all of them. I would definitely rather go with the RX7 over this one. It's just not really that good. But on to the last two vehicles that we got. Now, on to the next vehicle is the Class A Yosemite drift truck. And it's the drift version of this. There's two different versions. There's the regular version and there's the drift version. If you want the drift tune, you have to get the drift truck version of it. Just how with the last one, it's the drift Tampa and the regular Tampa. You have to go with the drift Tampa in order to get the tune. Now, all these cars are in the $1 million range. So just keep that in mind. And honestly, the last two cars kind of handle the same. They're both kind of in the same category of car. They're both really heavy feeling. You could definitely feel the weight of them. They handle decently, but like it's like drifting a bathtub. So I just would keep that in mind. If you like the look, honestly, after a while, once you get used to it, the rankings really don't matter. I'll rank both the last two 7s, and in total, I would probably just say the RX7 is probably the better one to go with, or even the G30, the G35, or even the 370Z would be a good option. But if I'm being completely honest, they all handle the same after a while. It basically is what you want to spend your money on, and how you basically what car looks best to you. And of course, all the cars you have to upgrade, like I said before, you actually put the drift tune on, because once you put on the tune, you can't upgrade it ever again. You have to actually take it off, upgrade the engine and the transmission, turbo, brakes, all that, and then put it back on again, which would be like a major waste of money. But the drift Tampa, again, same as the Yosemite, handles about the same. They're both really boaty feeling. I actually like how the Yosemite handles too, along with the drift Tampa. But the drift Tampa, again, they both handle kind of boaty-ish. And honestly, all these cars kind of are good on certain tracks. Like this one, on like a tight track, I would use the RX-7. On the bigger ones, I would use this car maybe. But that's all I gotta say for today's video. I hope you guys enjoy, and comment down below what you guys want to see. I will be trying to make more video as the year goes on. And honestly, let's just hope that 2024 is a better year than last year. But that's all I gotta say. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and y'all take care. Happy New Year, y'all.